If you want a chicken sandwich without the chicken, keep on watching. We're going to use our stand mixer. So I'm going to go in with the water first. Going in with a whole bag of flour, which where I come from, that's 1 kilo. So as always with stand mixers, I like to put my liquid in first and the dry on top because I feel like it incorporates a lot better. So I'm going to get this closed up, start it off on a low speed, and then we'll gradually increase until it comes into a nice cohesive dough ball. So I've been mixing for about 1.5 minutes here. Now I'm just going to go in with my little scraper here, give everything a nice little scrape down, and we'll close it back down, keep on mixing it. Now while this is mixing away here, I feel like it's a good thing to note that I'm using all-purpose flour. Universal flour it's also called. I would stay away from bread flour. I've tried to use bread flour a couple of times in the past now, and it just doesn't work. So stick with the all-purpose flour. Okay, so my dough ball's been kneading away in the KitchenAid for about 10 minutes. Now I'm just gonna bring it into a nice, neat little bowl here. All right, now I'm gonna plop it back in the bowl. Now I've got it covered with some nice, cool, fresh water. I'm just gonna let it sit on the bench for 1 hour. So the seitan's been sitting in the water for about 1 hour now. Now it's time to start the washing process. So all we're gonna do is start washing all the starch out of this dough. So we're just gonna start squeezing it around, and as you'll see, all the water starts turning super cloudy, and that's a good thing. That means all the starch is coming out. So this process takes a while. We're gonna have to change the water out about 6 or 7 times until the water starts running clear. Round 2, keep on washing. Okay, at the moment, it feels like it's gonna start coming apart. As you can see, it looks kinda messed up, like it's gonna fall apart on you. But trust in the process, just keep on washing it and it'll start binding together a bit more. The more we keep washing it, the more it'll start holding together. Okay, round 4 is pretty much the same as round 3. Feels like it's gonna come apart on you, but trust in the process. It'll all work out in the end. Round 5, keep on washing. Okay, it's been 5 times since I filled it up with water and washed it. And as you can see, it's a big dough ball. Looks like it's about ready to fall apart, but we're gonna fill this bowl up with fresh water and keep on washing it. Round 6, round 7. Round 8. After you finish washing it, when I put it in a bowl, just let it sit in there for about 30 minutes. While we're letting the seitan rest, we're going to make up a little braising liquid for it. So I've just got some chicken stock here, I'm going to add to a pot, and I've got a pre-made chicken rub that I found in the shop. I was looking in the ingredients, and it's got all your usual suspects in there. You know, some dried rosemary, coriander, ginger, you know, all the usual suspects. Anyway, it should be good. This is not going to be enough liquid, so I'm going to add some water to that. Okay, now we're going to get this on the stove and bring it up to the simmer. It's been sitting in the bowl here for about half an hour, just chilling out, and a little bit of water leaked out, which is what we're looking for. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a bit of a squeeze to get any extra moisture out of it. Then we're going to plop it out onto the board, and we're going to just give it a little push down to make it a little longer so we can get a good plait going onto this thing. So I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit. Now we're going to cut some slits on it to make some plait. So you don't want to cut it all the way through, but you want to make 2 cuts, look a little something like that. And now we start to plait. We'll bring one over, so that goes in the middle. Then we pick the other one up, in the middle. And we keep going until it's all plaited. Once you get to the end, you just want to make sure all the ends are pinched together. Everything's looking good. And now we get it into the broth. So I got my braising liquid up to a boil now. So we're just going to get the seitan. I want to place it in there. Now we're going to get this back on the stove and let it simmer away for about an hour. Once it starts floating, you just want to flip it a couple of times to make sure you get some even coverage. Also, this braising liquid, you can customize this any way you want. Now I use chicken stock, but if you wanted to go full vegan, you should go and check out one of our shorts where I made a full vegan seitan, and that braising liquid was also really good. But I was decided to go a little different this time. So I'll get it back on the stove, let it cook for about an hour. So the seitan's been bubbling away here for an hour. Now I'm just going to remove it from the pot. So since I won't be using this until tomorrow, I'm going to let this cool down. Then I'm going to stick this back into the pot, and then we're going to stick it in the fridge overnight. We'll come back tomorrow, and then we'll show you what I'm going to do with this thing. Okay, to make this bread, we're just going to bung everything in the bowl of a stand mixer. So the water, fresh yeast, then the flour, then we're going in with some salt. Finally, some olive oil. So we get rid of the scale, we get our stand mixer in on the scene, bung it on, close it up, and forget to plug the power in. Once we get the power plugged in, now we can start it off at a low speed just to get everything nicely incorporated. Just as it starts coming together, we're going to stop it, get our little handy dandy scraper here, just scrape down all the sides, make sure everything gets nicely incorporated, close it back down, and keep on mixing. You can also increase the speed here at this point. My dough's been mixing away for about 8 minutes here. Now on my Kenwood stand mixer, I've had it going on speed 2.5. And now I'm going to give it the old window pane test. I've already got a piece of dough here, and as you can see, it's not quite there yet because it rips nearly instantly. So plop it back in, put it back down, and we'll give it a same speed, 2.5 for about another 2 minutes, and then we'll check again. So my dough's been mixing for about another 2 minutes there. Now I'm just going to test it with the window pane test again, and I'm not sure if that's fully coming up on the camera, but it's looking alright for me. So get this off the hook. Going to turn it out my cutting board here. We're just going to give it a little knead by hand because, you know, playing with fresh doughs like this feels nice. And we need to bring it into a tight little bowl. So when you got a nice little smooth bowl like this, I'm going to get my mixing bowl back here. I'm going to give it a generous coat of olive oil, and we'll get that all Just whoosh it around here. We'll get the dough ball, we'll put that in, flip that around a bunch of times, get that nicely coated. Once we got the dough ball all coated in oil down there. Now you can use cling film to cover this up, but I'm just going to be using a dinner plate today. That's a good alternative. I'm going to place this in my oven to proof that's off until it's about doubled in size. So my memory card just filled up, so now I'm back. All I did was turn the dough out onto the board, and I brought it back into a nice little ball shape to make the next process a lot easier, which is putting it in the baking dish. So I've already got some olive oil in the pan, and we're just going to put it all around the place to make it all nice and covered. And now we're going to work the dough so it fits the whole length of the baking dish. So we're going to stretch it and push it till it fits in the dish here. So once you've got your dough stretched out to the size of your baking dish, you just want to go ahead and dimple it all over the top, which just go ahead and stab it with your fingers like this. Once you've dimpled it all over, we're just going to drizzle it over the top with some olive oil. I'm going to sprinkle over some flaky salt. We're just going to give it one last little dimpling with my fingers because I feel like that's what we need to do. Now we're going to cover this back up. I'm just going to stick it back in the oven like this. That's off to proof again until it doubles in size. So my dough's doubled in size again. Now I'm going to stick it into a 180 degree preheated oven for about 15 to 20 minutes until it's nice golden brown. So I've just pulled the bread out the oven, and just to finish it off, I'm just going to hit it with a little bit more olive oil over the top, and we'll spread that around a little bit with my little pastry brush here. Now after I'm going to let it sit in the pan for about 5 minutes, then I'll turn it out onto a rack and let it cool completely. So now we're going to make up the little chili sauce. Now I'm going to be using this chili, but cayenne pepper should work just fine. So we're going to load in a little bit of this. Now obviously, if your spice tolerance is a lot higher than mine, this is fully customizable. But for me, I'm going to be using 15 grams. So we've got a chili powder, then I'm going in with some Thai ginger, then I'm going in with some garlic powder, going in with some pepper, some smoked paprika, and a couple of healthy spoons of brown sugar, and some salt. And we'll give that a little mix. Got some melted butter here. I've just lightly melted on the stove. Now I'm going to add my spice mix, and we'll get all this dissolved into the butter. Now I'm just going to put this back on the stove on a low heat, just until everything's nicely incorporated and dissolved. But you don't want to get it too hot, otherwise this will split and then you'll have a not very good sauce. So I'll come back when everything's incorporated. Now we're going to make up a little creamy sauce. I'm going to start in with some skyr, a couple of hefty spoons, and we're going to squirt in some homemade mayonnaise. Then we're going to mix in some freshly chopped dill and mint. So we'll go ahead and get that all mixed up. I went kind of heavy on the herbs on this one because the other spicy sauce we made up, this should be a nice little cooling effect to go with that. Then we'll just go in with a cheek of lemon, squeeze that juice in there, we'll mix that in. All right, we'll go ahead and give that a taste. For me, that's going to need some more lemon. We'll just cut some more off, we'll squeeze all that good juice in there, take out any of the pips that fell in there. All right, we'll mix that in, give it another taste, sprinkle of salt. That's pretty damn good. We'll set it aside till we're ready to use it. So I've had my seitan rested in the fridge in the cooking liquid overnight. So now I'm going to take this out onto a board. So I'm going to cut it into chunks about this big. And then once we've cut them into the chunks, I'm just going to transfer them to a plate lined with paper towel so we can soak up any extra moisture. Okay, so I decided to cut them up just a little bit smaller. Now I've got them on this piece of paper towel. Now we're just going to put another piece on top. We're just going to push them slightly just to get rid of any extra moisture that's on the surface of these things. Now we'll set up the breading station. Okay, for the wet dredge, we just got some flour in here. And I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of Japanese arrowroot. I'm also going to add in a little bit of salt, and we'll give that a little mix through. Okay, now I'm going to add just enough water to get this to a pancake batter consistency. So add just a little bit at a time, get it mixing, and once we've reached that right consistency, we'll come back. Once you got your wet dredge into a nice batter-like consistency like that, I've also got just some normal breadcrumbs here. I'm going to give those a little bit of salt, give that a little bit of a mix in. Now we simply toss them into the wet batter. You can do a couple at a time, and we'll let it drip off for a little bit, straight into the crumb, get them nicely coated like that. Then we can put them back on this plate here, and we go through and crumb the rest. Okay, so I got my sauce here, and I was just looking at it, and since it was sitting there waiting for me to get it used, it has thickened up a little more than I thought it was going to. So I've got my oil that I'm going to be frying in, already heated up in the wok. So I'm just going to steal a little ladle full. We'll pop that in, and that's thinned it out pretty much just how I like it. So with this sauce looking good, we'll crack on with the frying process. So I got my oil up to temperature, and I'm just going to drop all my seitan in there and fry them until they're nicely golden. Once you've got them fried off to nice golden like this, you just want to remove them to a rack with some paper towel underneath, let them chill out for a minute. So I've got my bread cut out. Now we're going to go down with a healthy amount of sauce on both sides, top and bottom. And then usually I'm not a fan, but I think this sandwich calls for a bit of shredders. It just makes sense. Now I load in my little seitan bites and get them all mixed up with that sauce. Now we load up the sandwich, and now we cap it off, ready to eat. I must say, it's a tasty looking sandwich. Some fried little nuggets in homemade bread. Pretty hard to beat. So on the internet, a lot of people are saying that seitan is a direct meat replacement for chicken. That's why I made the same sandwich, except I actually used chicken. Let's see how it compares. Better take another bite. We don't want to make a hasty decision now. So I've stated before that seitan isn't a direct meat replacement, but in this context, with this sauce over it, It's very hard to tell the difference between the seitan and the chicken. You should give it a try for yourself.